everybody. This is the Soapbox Hero, and I have Dan Whitfield here, who is running for Congress in Arkansas against the infamous Tom Cotton. And I'm really excited to have you here, Dan.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Ian. I appreciate this opportunity.
So I want to jump right into what the thing that thing that hit me first was you look really young for politics. So I'm curious. I don't need to know how old you are, but I'm curious. Why a senator? Why do you or Congress? Sorry, why do you want to be a congressman? Like what drove you to be there? And yeah, just why? Like what is your? You seem young, and there's so many things you could do. Why politics?
Well, I never wanted to be a politician, honestly. I'm 33. I'm just old enough to be a senator, fortunately. But I mean, it was never really like my passion or my dream. I feel like it's just something that I kind of fell into because I started looking at how corrupt my representative was, and I just felt like I had to do something about it. And the best way, to do something is to just get up and run. And so I started doing a lot of research. I became very politically awake. Um, and I decided that, this is what I'm going to do to try to get the kind of change that we need for me to feel like, you know, that I'm raising my daughter in the best place possible, kind of thing. But yeah, it was never really a dream. I mean, I'm a working class guy. I work, I've got a couple jobs. I am a full time student, and man, I just fell into it.
Have you held any political positions before or run for anything before this?
Never. And I mean, I keep getting people asking me if I'm going to run again, and I tell them no every time. Like I said, I'm not a politician. I'm just doing this. We need change, and we need it now. We really can't afford to wait another 6 years dealing with the same type of um, governmental corruption that we're dealing with right now.
Right, absolutely. I agree completely. What what things have you run into being someone who's, dare I say, underfunded compared to someone like Tom Cotton, who is backed by so many um, people with deep pockets? What things have you run into? Being is that you've never done this before, you're just doing it because it needs to be done. What things have you seen that you think people should know about?
Well, it is definitely a lot different running as an independent than it would be to run as a Republican or as a Democrat. Because when you run and you have the party backing you, they give you money, they give you staff, they give you experienced people who know how to run campaigns. And as an independent, and I mean, our campaign is 100% grassroots. We don't even take money from political parties, political action committees, corporations, billionaires, anything like that. So we don't have, the funding to just go in and hire a firm and pay them like 300 grand,
Right.
something like Tom Cotton would do. Um, and we have had struggles because of that. When I go to a party meeting to speak and, answer any questions they have, I leave without a check. And if I was a Democrat and I went to a Democratic meeting and I spoke with people and answered their questions, I'd leave with a $2,800 check. If I was a Republican and went to a Republican, county meeting, same thing. I'd leave with a $2,800 check. So
Hmm.
I mean, I've been to dozens of these meetings. I've talked to a lot of people, and it's just different running as an independent. You don't have so many people willing to help fund your campaign. All of our funding has come from working class people that are just tired of the situations we're living in. They're tired of the programs that they need help, that help them, like Social Security or disability. They don't want these programs to get cut. So those are the kind of people that are donating to our campaign. It's completely working class, and it's really cool because my average donation is like $27. I mean, it's the perfect grassroots campaign, and it does add struggles. Like all of my staff is all volunteer, 100%. We don't have any paid positions. My treasurer, who does all my FEC filings, which is usually very expensive, she does it all for free. That's my wife. Let's see. I mean, all my different campaign leaders, our volunteer coordinators, everyone is just doing this because they want to see Tom Cotton gone. They're doing it
Right.
because they think it's the right thing to do. So, it creates a whole different type of team. And I think at the same time, it's really cool because, I mean, our team, we're kind of like a family. We have like our group chats, and I mean, it's like the brothers and sisters I never knew I had. And, we're messaging at kind of all hours of the night, always throwing out ideas and brainstorming. So it's a really unique campaign. And I don't know. I honestly prefer it this way because it allows me to just focus on what my constituents want me to do. And I don't have to worry about, well, this political party is going to help me get into office. And if my constituents, 67% of the kids born here in Arkansas are covered by Medicaid, and if my party says, well, we want you to go to cut Medicaid, well, I can be like, no, my
Right.
constituents don't want me to do that, so I'm not going to. So we have had our struggles with funding, and everything is volunteer, but we're making progress. A lot of people know about our campaign now. We've been able to get, I mean, to hundreds of thousands of people's social media feeds. To we're growing so fast, but it has definitely been difficult as an independent, and that's not even talking about actually trying to get ballot access as an independent, which is really tough. And a
Yeah,
whole
that was
way.
my next that was the next segue was why is the news, why is everything basically saying that he's running unopposed?
Mhm.
Meanwhile, I know that you're running against him, and I've heard of even other people that are running against him, yet everything that the public is getting pushed through the media is he's unopposed, which almost guarantees the person the seat. So
Mhm.
why are they doing that, and why are you and the other people running against him not being recognized?
Man, that's a good question. I think it has to do a lot with corruption and where money is coming from and where money is going. Honestly, because they had a plan. They know Tom Cotton is not a popular person. I think he was actually just voted the least popular Arkansan, or the least liked Arkansan. Like, he was actually voted the least liked person.
Over the Clintons?
Yeah. And
Or are they
so
not
it's
Arkansans anymore?
um they don't live here anymore, right?
Well,
I'm
I hope
pretty.
not. I
Yeah.
prefer they didn't.
I think they got a bunch of money and they picked up and moved to a different pasture somewhere else to settle down. But man, I don't know. It's just crazy. I don't know how the media is getting away with it. I make posts on social media sometimes talking about the corrupt media, but unfortunately people don't like using the word corrupt and media together, because then they associate that with fake news and with Donald Trump.
Yep.
But it's the truth. I mean, they know there is a libertarian who has ballot access. They know I am in a legal battle for ballot access. He's not running unopposed no matter what. But it all comes down to their original strategy, because they wanted him to run unopposed.
Hmm.
They actually tried to change the laws last year to require third parties to get 26,000 signatures rather than 10,000. 26,000 signatures.
So
So
who tried to pass that law? Who tried to pass that, and why? I mean, like,
I,
we know the why, but I mean, what was the public why?
I think it was the state legislators who had voted on that law to pass it. And, our state legislators are a majority Republican. And it's actually crazy because then I'll get into that part later. But yeah, so when they tried to make it harder for third parties to try to prevent third parties from getting ballot access, they already had the dirt on the Democrat. So by this point, they knew they were going to get the Democrat to drop out, and they were trying to prevent third parties from getting on. That way they could say he was legitimately running unopposed. So I think that was
Who
their
was the Democrat that had dirt on them?
that was Josh Mahoney.
I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, really? Oh, man,
Mm-mm.
the GOP straight blackmailed the Democrat out of the race after the filing deadline so that no other Democrats could file. There's no
Wow.
Democrat race, which almost never happens in a federal U.S. Senate race. It makes this a really unique race where
It's a
normally,
coordinated effort.
yeah, and I mean normally like an independent would have no chance. We only have
Right.
two senators, whereas now we actually have a really good chance. I mean, all the polls I've done are like 90 to 10%, and it's not like I'm doing them one-sided just for my supporters. I'm throwing out there statewide. So I mean, a lot of people are fed up with Tom Cotton. A lot of Republicans are fed up with Tom Cotton. But these Republicans that are fed up with the way that their party is representing them, they would never vote for a Democrat, but
Right.
they'll vote as an independent, which gives me a huge advantage. But yeah, so they tried to get the libertarians off, and the libertarians were actually the ones who sued, and they got the 26,000 signatures reduced back down to 10,000. And then they used a paid canvassing company, paid $55,000, and got their ballot access. 55 grand for ballot access. It's crazy, man.
So why
Crazy.
does it cost that much to get ballot access? Why wouldn't it just be, hey, I'm running, put me on the ballot? Like, why? I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it comes down to the two-party system where the Republicans, that's what they do. They pay $20,000 and they're on the ballot. The Democrats pay $12,000 and they're on the ballot. The Libertarians had to pay 55 grand, and the reason they had to pay so much was because they needed 10,000 signatures, so they had to hire paid canvassers to go out and get signatures. I think they had ended up turning in like 17,000 signatures, and they had like 14,000 verified or something, in that general area. So they had to pay a whole bunch. Where with our signatures, well, number one, the Libertarian Party, they actually got to choose their 90-day window to collect signatures. So when they paid for their signatures, they did it last summer, 4th of July, these big giant events
That's
where,
smart.
yeah, where, people are gathering and you can get signatures easily. And as an independent, I don't get to choose my window. It has to be between February 1st and May the 1st. Unfortunately, COVID-19 happened this year. There was no way to foresee or predict it. And on March 13th, the governor issued orders of the state, which implemented social distancing, banned large gatherings, and it really affected our signature collection
Well, I'm
efforts.
sure.
So we were able to collect from February 1st until like March 12th was my last event. I went to the firefighter union meeting down in Little Rock. And ever since that event, I had to cancel 9 events the next week. All of our St. Patrick's Day events got canceled. And I had volunteers ready in Little Rock, Eureka Springs, Hot Springs, Fayetteville, all over the place, Fort Smith, ready to go out and get signatures for us at these events. And they all got canceled. So that kind of sucked. And we were actually able to get 6,514 signatures when we lost like 60% of the time, and we needed 10,000. So we were a little bit short after they verified our signatures and gave us the count back. We ended up with 5,954 verified signatures. So we had like
So
a
what does
nice.
that get you?
What that gets me is a lawsuit to sue for ballot access. Basically, it really affected our signature collection efforts. So what I did was the first thing I did was I contacted all of the other independents running in Arkansas for state seats. And I reached out to all of them, and there were 2 that I was unable to get a hold of. One, her contact info is incorrect on this Secretary of State site. And then the second guy never responded to an email or phone call. Well, I reached the other 5 of them because there was, only 8 of us.
Right.
And I drafted a letter to the governor asking for relief, asking for a signature reduction, an extension for signatures, or allowing us to collect signatures digitally, so people can sign online and we print it and bring it in like other states have already done.
Right.
And the governor, I drafted the letter and everybody signed it. We had 6 signatures on it from all the candidates, and we sent it to the governor, and he ignored it. Later on, a few months later, in an interview, he said, "Yeah, I received their letter and I passed it off to my legal team." That was it. So after the governor didn't respond, we knew we were starting to run out of time. So then we sent the letter to the Secretary of State's office and asked him for help because he's the head of elections. He controls the ballots. He controls everything. He never responded. 2 weeks later, I reached back out to him, and that's when his staff told me that he does not have the authority to help us. So at that point, we had to take legal action because, time is of the essence at this,
Right.
point. I think it was like already, I want to say like April 26th or something like that. And we started our lawsuit, and we are suing the Secretary of State, John Thurston, for relief for our signature collection for ballot access. We had our hearing on May 27th, and I mean, it went awesome. It was so good. I was cross-examined by the Attorney General for 2 hours and made that dude look ridiculous. It was amazing. If you get a
That's a
chance, you
long
should check
time
it
to
out.
be on the stand.
Oh man, well, we actually had to do it all virtually.
Oh, okay.
So it was all like a conference call.
Okay.
And I mean, it was crazy. I made that dude get so frustrated. He just stopped questioning me. At some point, he's like, I'm just okay. I'm gonna release the witness now, because every time he tried to make a point, I would be able to put it right back on him. Like, I mean, he was trying to catch me in a lie, but I had no lies. I was just telling the truth. So it was really cool. Our hearing went really well. There were even a couple times during the hearing where I had some supporters who were actually there in the courtroom, where they told me everyone busted laughing. Like even the judge was laughing at some of the things I was saying because it was true. The dude's like, so where in the Constitution does it say we need to grant a candidate relief for signature collections due to a pandemic? So I'm like, well, where in the Constitution does it say I need to get signatures to represent my constituents? I mean, if
Right. No
you want
kidding.
to bring that into it, and I mean, it went really well. And you can actually go to replacetomcotton.com, and there's a tab that says ballot access, and you can read. I have the 254 page transcript on my website. I have all of our court documents up there. And so after our hearing, I knew it went really well, and we had to wait 4 weeks to get a decision from the judge. 4 weeks. And then she
Wow.
ruled against us and in favor of John Thurston. Now, originally, I was shocked. Why would it take her 4 weeks to tell us no? She could have told us no that day. She could have told us no at any point, but she released a 61-page ruling to tell us no. So I had some legal experts look at it, and we started, examining this document. And you know what? She was actually doing us a favor by voting against us or ruling against us, because if she had ruled in our favor, the attorney general would have appealed it, and it would have been locked up in the circuit courts until after the election. And then that's it. There's nothing I could do. My name wouldn't be on the ballot. Where by ruling in his favor against us, now we can appeal, expedite the appeal, and she
There you
gave us
go.
standing in her ruling. She says the standing is here for declaratory relief. She found that we didn't have the standing for preliminary injunctive relief, but right after that, she says we have standing for the declaratory relief. So when it gets to the Eighth Circuit Court, so we've already filed our expedite to move our appeal faster. I think we're shooting for July 20th right now. Um, they'll be able to see right there in the paper that we have standing for relief, and then they can
Perfect.
grant our favor, and they won't be able to appeal it. And
So
we know that.
potentially July 20th, potentially they'll reverse the ruling. You'll be able to be on the ballot, and we still have a handful of months before November.
Yeah.
So sounds like a
So we're moving in
success.
the right direction. It's just tough, man. What an
Yeah.
emotional roller coaster it's been, especially for like my wife and I mean my family. They've been super troopers about this. I mean, I drove 10,000 miles around the state in the first January and February before COVID happened, and they rode with me the whole time and slept in the car, and they were pretty cool about it. And it's been quite an experience, but everything is going the right way. We're moving in the right direction. It's just a stressful process. But yeah,
Are you
hopefully by July
working?
20th.
Sorry, this format on here is so hard to tell when someone's stopping and not talking. Trying to find the pause. Are you working at all or in contact at all with the other candidates that are running against Tom Cotton?
Um, I mean, I talked to Ricky. He's the libertarian running. I mean, we're kind of, I guess I would say friends. Like we're PlayStation friends, and I mean, I like him. We get along. I just don't really like the libertarian platform. If I thought that he had a chance to win, and that he would be a good representative for me, I would just drop out and support him 100%. But unfortunately, the libertarian platform is very scary to me, especially if you go to isidewith.com and go to the presidential race. You can actually see Jo Jorgensen. She's the Libertarians' presidential candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Look at her policy surveys. Scary stuff, man. Um, I wish I could pull it up and read some of these to you because they're so crazy.
Oh no,
But
it's good. We'll let the listener pull it up and look at it on their own if they feel that
yeah,
way. What
but
so you're saying that you side differently than the libertarian as well as different from Tom Cotton. So where do you stand that sets you apart from, let's start with Tom Cotton? I mean, is there anything that you guys agree on?
Yeah, actually, we do. Well, I mean, it's not 100%, but we do both support the Second Amendment.
Okay.
Uh, I support our constitutional right to bear arms. However, we do need to make sure that we are, looking at common sense gun legislation like background checks for private sales. If I can go to Bass Pro and then they run a background check on me and I pass it and I buy a gun, that's showing I'm not a felon. If I go to Bass Pro and I don't have the rights to own a gun because I'm a felon, then they won't sell me a gun. I shouldn't be able to just go to arms list and hand someone cash and take a firearm without doing a background check. Because what if I'm a felon? How do you know the person you're selling a gun to isn't a felon? You ask them, and then they say, "Yeah, no, I'm not a felon." So we do have to, make sure we try as best we can to prevent the wrong people from getting firearms, because that's the $1 million question. How do you get the guns out of the hands of bad guys?
Right. I think that anybody that supports the Second Amendment also doesn't want the wrong people with guns, because nobody's in favor of, mass mass shootings or those public tragedies. But at the same time, I mean, how do you prevent me from selling a gun to my neighbor? Like, how are you going to know, and how are you going to stop that?
Well, what you would have to do is you would have to add liability. If you sell a firearm to someone and you don't perform a background check, if a crime is committed with that firearm and it's registered to you, then you should be liable for any crimes committed with that firearm. I mean, it comes down to, I don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion, what I think is right. I mean, I own firearms, and if I was to sell a gun to someone, I would do a background check to make sure that they should have a firearm. And if they can't pass a background check at Walmart or Bass Pro, then they shouldn't be buying a gun from me. But like you said, how do because then you get into gun registries and, it gets kind of,
Right. It's a very nuanced subject. I mean, it's not black and white. That's why it hasn't been figured out yet, because it's not something that you're just gonna poof and it's okay. We fixed the problem. No big deal now.
yeah.
But I was curious what you thought about going past that, because I mean, there's a lot of legal issues there, right? Like, how are you going to hold somebody legally responsible and send them to prison when you know what I mean? Like, there's just, I'll leave that to the lawyers, because I'm not a lawyer and I'm not going to figure out why that's, you know, difficult to hold up in court, or would be. But
Well, I mean,
yeah,
when it
at
comes
least
to it,
I like
like,
the topic.
yeah, and I mean, if someone steals your gun, like out of your home or your car, cars are the most common places that a firearm is stolen. I mean, you report it stolen, right? And then
Right.
it's no longer registered to you. You're not, it's not yours. You're not liable anymore.
So you can just sell it and then report it stolen.
But then the person who you sold it to, if they were ever caught
Well, if they're out
or
killing
stopped
people, I
with
mean,
it,
whose word are you going to take?
yeah, I mean that is true. But like if say you were stopped for a traffic stop and you
Okay.
purchased a gun that someone reported as stolen, now you have stolen property and now you're kind of screwed. Um, so I don't know. It's tough, man. It's a
Yeah,
hard question. There's
there's
no
no
right
easy
answer.
answer here.
Yeah, all you can really do is try to make sure you're not impeding on people's constitutional rights. You Man, it's tough because it all comes back down to a gun registry. People are really scared about a national gun registry, but if you think about it, realistically, the government has every single text message you've ever sent saved. The government has every single phone call you've ever made saved. They know what you
Right.
are
If you
on
if you
Amazon.
think
They
that
know
the
what kind
government
of
doesn't know where you live and where you are at any time that they want to
the
check,
government has a list of who has
you're not
guns.
paying attention. Right.
Yeah. I mean, they know if you buy a firearm, you had to do a background check. You don't think they actually have some kind of registry? They do. And if we ever did have an actual registry formed, at least we could regulate it and we could protect ourselves from what's there rather than them just using NSA powers to record everything.
But at the same time, I get the argument that it's their right to privacy. They shouldn't have to tell anybody what they own or what's in their home. That's their business, and they shouldn't have to tell them that. I mean, but again, our privacy is already being infringed upon every single day. So, it seems kind of like we're fighting the battle just for battle's sake, not
Yeah,
because it
we're
really is
fighting an
accomplishing
illusionary
anything.
war that we've already
Right.
lost.
We're fighting for principle, but we're not thinking in logic here.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. I mean, I know a lot of Democrats really don't like my 2A policy, and some Republicans don't like that I support background checks. So it's one of the things, one of those policies that hurts me on both sides. But that's what I think is right. And I don't know, I kind of stick by what I think.
Well, and I think that it's a good thing. Listen, in my opinion, if the red doesn't like it and the blue doesn't like it, I probably like it because neither one of them have any of our best interests at heart. None of them are looking out for us. They're looking out for themselves and their interests and the people that keep their pockets filled. Like that's
The corporation, what's the
if
job of the corporation? To make their shareholders
yep,
money.
make money. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I really don't like political parties anymore. I mean, literally, the definition of a political party is an institution that helps candidates get elected into government to control the flow of government. That's not what our government's supposed to be. Our
Right.
government, by the people, for the people, and representing the people, and not these corporations. And I mean, that's one of the really big parts of my campaign is to bring attention to this kind of corruption. The fact that our legislators take money from giant corporations and then will vote on legislation that benefits those donors while hurting us. Like when they voted on that Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, they raised in 2018, actually, I think it was 2019 now, our income taxes as working class Americans went up $93 billion, and corporate income taxes went down $90 billion. So we have to make sure that the people that are representing us are actually going to represent us and not people filling their pockets. And I mean, that all comes down to why I'm not going to run a reelection campaign. All these candidates, they take money from all these special interests so that they can afford to run a reelection campaign. It all just
And now
goes towards.
that's their job. And now that's your job. Your job is to take money, run campaigns. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that you should run or reelect either. I think that what you're doing is the right way to do it for sure.
Yeah, it's a kind of a new way to look at government, but I mean, if you're doing a good job, you shouldn't have to spend a bunch of money to tell people how good of a job you're doing. People will either vote for you or they won't. You know.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel about since you're talking about uh, the dangers of the two-party system, and how do you feel about the 2020 presidential election of the worst possible candidates?
Man, I always get in trouble when I talk about the 2020 election. So first off, I really try to focus on my own campaign because I have so much stress and emotion, and there's so much to do running your own campaign that I really don't have time to focus on an executive election. But I mean, we're in really crazy times right now. I feel
That's
like
true.
the last 8 years, or the last, I guess, 4 years, we've just had the worst possible candidates. And how do you end up with the President Donald Trump? How? You have to put him against like one of the most hated and untrustworthy people in America. I mean, that's the only
And
way.
bingo, that's what the DNC did.
Yeah, and now they're trying to figure out, how can Donald Trump possibly win re-election, especially after causing more than 100,000 people to lose their lives because COVID is a Democratic hoax. I mean, it's so crazy. And you put him up against a senile old man with dementia who works for corporations. I don't know.
Who gropes little kids on camera. Oh,
Yes,
some of those videos are awful.
dude, I would not trust my daughter in a room alone with
No.
either of those two
So
men. Why?
why are those our only two options then? Like that's what frustrates me with this two-party system, and I appreciate that you're whether it's Congress, I don't care what level it's at, we need more people that are saying no. Like there are other options. Pick something else. Like we don't have
Well,
to pick the lesser of two evils anymore. Pick someone that aligns with your views, not, oh, well, at least it's not that person. That's a victory. Well, no, it's not. It's not a victory.
That's why I voted for Jill Stein in 2016. I'm very proud to have voted for her. People can make up whatever lies they want about her, but the fact is, she's a doctor, she's a good woman, and she wants peace and not war. She wants to. I really like Jill Stein. She's actually the reason that I do my weekly live stream chat. She started doing a fireside chat every Wednesday night, answering live stream Q&A questions, and I thought that that was brilliant. How best to represent people than to actually listen to people and answer their questions. So every Saturday at 6 p.m., I do a live stream where I answer people's questions. Um, I'm really proud to have been able to vote for her. She's not a Russian Asian. She's not a Russian troll. Um, and, I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do for 2020. I've already I endorsed Bernie originally. I feel like he's the only one who's actually fighting for the 99% in the working class and who wants to
How do
actually
you
out.
how
Mhm.
do you feel about Bernie getting raw, like the proven that it was the Democratic primary was rigged so that Hillary would win? He still turned around and endorsed her, and he did the same thing with Biden. Like, how do you? That's my
Well,
issue with Bernie is how do you do that? I understand it's part of the game. I understand like he is still running
it's
on the
not even just
Democratic
the
Party.
game. It's the law, though. Like it's part. He signed a legal agreement to do it. When you run for
Explain that.
when you run for president as a as say a Democrat, you have to sign the pledge to support whatever Democrat is the nominee. I mean, it's a pledge. You have to do it. When I was offered to be one of Bernie Sanders' delegates, I had to sign a pledge, and I couldn't sign the pledge because it said that I would, only support Democratic candidates. But I'm an independent, so I can't do that, and I had to turn it down. Oh, what a sad day that was. But these
I bet.
people, yeah, they're signing these pledges. He did the election in 2016. It was rigged. It's not a question. It literally got brought before a judge, and a judge said the Democrats rigged their election.
Yep.
But since it's a private entity, they can do whatever they want with their elections. It's not against the law.
Ugh.
Uh, so they did rig it. Um,
Well, that at least explains why I didn't know that there was a pledge. I don't. I've never gotten into politics deep, like running or like that's not for me. I'll talk to the people. I don't want to be a part of that. That's why I was curious why at such a young age you would want to tip your toe into
don't I
such a
really don't.
dark world,
This
man. It's
happens.
so dark.
It is, man. And I mean, it's crazy because like some people treat you so bad over it. I mean, because you have like keyboard warriors, internet trolls, and my mom reads these posts, and some of these people post the most
Oh no.
crazy negative things.
Yep.
And it's just something that I had to acknowledge was going to happen if I ran for office. One of the hazards of it. But man, it's really too bad that the DNC had a choice. They knew Bernie Sanders would beat Donald Trump. I mean, the thing about Bernie Sanders is he's an independent, even though he's running as a Democrat, and a lot of his supporters were Republicans. And when you switched him out and forced them to either vote for a Republican or an actual, a Democrat, they voted for the Republican. And they knew Bernie would win, and they had a choice to make. Are we going to allow a Bernie Sanders presidency, or are we going to allow a Donald Trump presidency?
Right.
Uh, the people making that decision, they're all
I feel like
millions.
they're making that same they're posing that same premise in 2020.
It
I
is.
mean, they're
Well,
not giving you a choice. Biden is more of the same. He's more, I mean, he's so embedded into these corporations' pockets, and he's not even mentally competent at this point to be holding anything. He can't even speak full sentences when he's on camera. I feel sorry. Like I'm not ragging on him. I feel awful that the DNC is parading this poor old man and saying basically you're running because we don't have anybody else to run and we need somebody other than Bernie to go up. I mean, that's basically what happened, and it's honestly it's sad. I feel like he should have had a legacy of I was a vice president for 8 years, can hang my hat, and I did something good, and now the poor man is being paraded, and I don't know that he's mentally having a good time.
man, I mean, I'm going to end up voting for Joe Biden. I don't have much of a choice.
Oh,
I know I think I might need to wash some vomit out of my mouth. I mean, it's terrible.
Ugh.
I hate to say it, but I have to vote for him. And because when I voted, one of the things that people don't talk about for 2016 was the biggest tragedy of 2016 was that we missed out on having 4 federally funded major parties, because I guarantee you Jill Stein had more than 5% of the vote. I guarantee you. And they rigged it. They changed it. I don't know what they did. Some kind of election fraud. No idea. But I guarantee you, if she had 24 million people go and watch her live stream debate when they wouldn't let her participate, it takes a lot of effort to go onto someone's social media and watch their live stream rather than turning on Fox News or CNN, right?
Right.
And trying to say she got less than a million votes, absolutely no way. I've met too many people that have been like, yeah, I voted for her, and I mean, I hear it all the time. So the Green Party should have been federally recognized as a major party. The Libertarians, Gary Johnson, he was polling at 11%. He was polling at 11%, and they're trying to say that he got less than 5% of the vote. The Libertarians should have been a federally recognized party. And that's one of the tragedies of 2016 we don't talk about, is that we got stuck with the 2-party system when realistically, it was all rigged, man. They cheated us. And things would be a lot different this time around if we had a major libertarian party and a major
Oh,
green.
absolutely. And that's so that was my next. You're great at you're feeding me all the segues. I was gonna go there, and you bring me there. Um, Considering that we should be in a 3 or 4 party system at this point, I'm curious to know, because again, I don't know a whole lot about politics as far as what people can do, what they can accomplish while they're in office. Um, what's the worst thing that could happen? Allowing somebody like Jorgensen, a libertarian candidate, to achieve becoming president of the United States. You still have the everything else is still red and blue. So I feel like anything that she tries to push through has to go through basically the Indiana Jones frickin' Temple of Doom. Like she's going to get hit from both sides of people shutting down anything she's trying to do. So what's the worst that could happen allowing a libertarian into office?
I think if you go to isidewith.com and look her up, you'll understand. She's going to probably side with the Republicans more than the Democrats. And because it gives survey questions like, are you for allowing an insurance company to deny someone medical coverage based on pre-existing conditions? And she put uh, that she is all for an insurance company to be able to deny, someone with pre-existing conditions coverage. I mean, so that's a really Republican stance. But then it's like, are you pro-abortion, or are you pro-choice or pro-life? And she puts that she's pro-choice. So she has some things where she falls on the left and some things where she falls on the right. Um, so I don't know. I mean, realistically, our Senate, it's so close right now. I mean, it's basically like, what is it, like 48 to 52 or something like that. I mean, she'll probably be able to get Republican parts of her policy passed, but she probably won't be able to get any of the Democratic parts passed, is what it's going to come down to. So the only things she'll get done are going to be more right-wing things. I don't think she'll be able, even if she supports a left-wing policy, I don't think she'll be able to get it through. But I mean, then she has
But wouldn't
executive.
at least some more progressive versions of right wing ideas, wouldn't that at least be some progress rather than continuing doing what we're doing? Because look, if Trump stays in office, nothing is getting pushed through that's progressive, and if Biden gets put in, like we're in the same boat that we've been in before with just corruption and lobbyists. And like you somewhere on the website, on your website I was looking at, it was talking about how lobbyists are writing all the laws. Like that's something that we've known for a while, these backdoor meetings that are happening in these convention center or in meeting centers at these really nice hotels
Mhm.
where no one's allowed in, reporters aren't allowed in. People have tried to go into those meetings, and God, there was something I read or I was watching a video where like I think it was a senator got called out for submitting a proposal that still had the heading of the lobbyist company that created this law for him, and his office was too lazy to change the letterhead. So when he submitted it to everybody, they were like, "Dude, this says such and such, and we all know who they are. What are you doing?" So like it's common knowledge that these lobbyists are writing these laws. So I'm curious why you would choose more of that rather than progress in a little bit different direction than where you want us to go. And then and then if she gets elected, that's definitely more than 5%. So boom, now we've got three parties. And then
I hope she gets
2024
like
for
a
green.
whole bunch of votes. It's really hard running for public office and publicizing who you're going to vote for. Because
Oh, absolutely.
if I vote for Joe Biden, then Democrats will vote for me. If I vote for anybody else, a lot of Democrats won't vote for me. I've criticized Joe Biden just a couple times, and it always ends in a bad way. So I've been kind of forced to support. I guess actually I don't support him. I say I will vote for him and I will vote for him, but I really don't support him. I mean, my three main policies are Medicare for all, Green New Deal, and federal decriminalization of cannabis. He's against all three of those things. So it's really tough for someone in my position. It's really tough, man. I mean, I like Howie
Again, you're
Hawkins.
33. What the hell are you doing in politics, man? You're gonna have gray hair by the time this thing is done in November. Like,
It's already
I'm
starting to
curious.
come, man.
I'm curious. It looks great now. The toupee looks fantastic on this
I
webcam.
know,
Um,
right? Glued on good.
uh, I'm just curious. Like, I don't know. It's a dilemma, man. It's there is a mob, right? We people need to understand there is a mob out in the world right now. They are hungry for their way,
Mhm.
and I understand the position that you're in, and that's why I won't put myself in that position because you're basically running in 2020, you're running a popularity contest. How do I keep everybody from being mad at me long enough to get where I'm trying to go so I can make good things happen? But if I don't support who they think I should support, or if I don't say the thing that they think I should have said, well, then now I'm going to be, tagged and hashtagged like crazy because that's their answer.
Mhm.
If they don't like what you said, they'll get the following and they'll just attack. And it's a scary time to do anything in the public eye for sure. So I understand why you're on that fence, and who you vote for is your business. Like you could say whatever you want. Go vote third party. Um,
Well, it's just really it's tough, man. Like Howie Hawkins just followed me on Twitter the other day. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome.
yeah,
Bill Stein is following me on Twitter. Andrew Yang. I'm starting to get these big names following me, and I mean, it's just. I wish I could vote for who I wanted to vote for, but I guess that's just a luxury that I gave up when I decided to run for office. And like you said, it's a freaking popularity contest, man. And unfortunately, being an independent, I can't make everybody happy. And I'm
and you don't
very
have the
big.
money to buy the votes like Tom Cotton is
Or,
doing. So you're really in a precarious situation.
and as much as it hurts me, I never tell people what they want to hear. I always tell it the way it is. If I go to a Democrat meeting and guns come up, I talk about being pro 2A. If I'm at a Republican meeting and, choice comes up, I talk about how I'm pro choice. And it's hard. But I'm not going to be that guy who tells people what they want to hear just because they want to hear it to get a vote. I don't think that's the way it should be done.
Let me ask you a question. How do you feel about, so this obviously isn't even something that's being, well, it might be. I don't think that it's something that's being proposed, but it's something I thought about the other day. You mentioned voter fraud, voter suppression with these other third-party independents, um, and how there's no way that they didn't get the amount of votes that it, we would have thought that they had gotten. What do you think about not having private voting records? Like,
I
well,
just
because
talked about that the other night in my live
on
stream.
Facebook, everybody is so freaking out with it anyway. You're
Uh-huh.
you're you're publicly outspoken on Facebook and Twitter and all these other social media sites. Like, I, for one, as much as I do recognize it is a violation of our privacy, again, we just talked about privacy a little bit ago. Like, I at this point, I would be willing to give up my privacy of who I voted for. I would be okay with that being public record so long as I could see it and know that it was actually counted.
So that's what I've proposed, or what I've talked about is what I think we should do is there should be an option to either make your vote public or private. And if you select that option, then you can go into a database, type your
I
name
like
in, your
that.
all that, and you can see how your vote was cast. That way, you can tell that it was cast in the manner that you wanted it to be cast. Um, See, Estonia is a country that does completely online voting, and they do all their voting online. They actually get like it's a little thing that you plug into your computer, and you like plug it in, and then you slide in your ID card into it, and it scans your card to make sure you are who you are, and then you vote it, and it's really really cool. And the thing about it is they can actually vote more than once. So their voting period is say a week long, and they can vote and vote and vote, but the only one it counts is the last time they vote. So you can change your mind.
Oh, wow, that's super cool.
Oh, I know, right? How many times have you been like, oh, well, I like this person, so I'm going to vote for them. And then, like, the next day they do some, man, it's so hard not to curse. They do some dumb, like, issuing no quarter orders or saying that we need
Right.
to use an overwhelming show of military force against Americans. And you're like, man, I wish I didn't vote for that guy now.
Yep. Yep.
So I mean, that's a pretty cool thing that they do as well. And I think honestly, as we technologically advance and get to the ability to do things securely like that, we're going to end up doing it too. It's just a matter of time, especially with COVID-19 happening right now. Everybody's trying to stay home, and you know, absentee mail-in ballots are what everyone's pushing for. But I mean, personally, I think the way to go would be digital ballots. I mean, if my phone can use facial recognition and
Right.
thumbprint recognition, my phone knows who I am. And
Yeah.
especially as we start getting these like federal IDs that have barcodes on them, you can scan your barcode and place your vote. And I mean, as long as, like you said, like we had just talked about, you can have it public or private. You can always go back and make sure your vote was cast in the right way and it wasn't changed.
Yeah. I like that idea. It's something that, again, a lot of people are going to be against because it's new. Of course, they're going to be against anything, any new ideas. But yeah, if I can look at my phone, just look at it, and then boom, I can see money. I can send money. I can receive money. I can buy things. I can spend $1,000, $10,000 just at one punch of a button on a phone. You're telling me that they don't know who I am?
Yeah.
I
And then
mean,
mail-in ballots scare me too, because look at they found those storage units in Arizona that had millions of ballots in them that were never even counted back in 2016. Ballots get shred, so it's really the only way to do it is to make it a choice to see your vote afterwards and make it public.
and there's no level they won't go to suppress votes. Look at Mitch McConnell. I mean, you're going to have one polling place in the whole state.
Uh,
I
that
mean, you're
would
trying real hard to reelect.
I really want to know who controls where the polling places are and who has the ability to close polling places. Is that the Secretary of State, or is it party controlled? I have no idea, but we should
I don't
find out
either.
that. It's
Yeah, there
bad.
needs to be investigation on that for sure. That's
But it's
the most
600,000
obvious. That's the one
people.
thing. It's the one thing I would say is they're getting more and more they're getting more and more blatant. They're not hiding it as well that they're, tampering, that they're using every effort that they can to maintain control, the control that they've had for so long. Meanwhile, the public is getting restless. You have people like you who are slapping the pin on and saying, "Screw it, I'm going to do it myself," because this system is so broken that even though I don't want to be in politics, somebody has to do this because it's time for change. And I appreciate that you're doing that. Again, it's not for me. Uh, I don't want to be in that public eye, but I appreciate that you are you heard the call and you're strapping up and fighting the fight, man. I support it. I'll be voting for you for sure because Tom Cotton has to go, man.
He
If
really
there's anything
does.
Arkansans can agree with, it's Tom Cotton has to go.
And dude, I can talk about policy forever. I'm really passionate about it too. So I mean, if you ever want to have like more conversations,
Definitely.
I can talk for hours. I have a bad problem of where I'll get into like a 15-minute or a 30-minute interview, and then it's like an hour goes by, and they're like, "We're gonna have to make this a two-part interview."
Yeah, no, I'm definitely down to have more conversations, offline in the future for sure. So let
Absolutely.
me let me segue into my final question that I mentioned to you earlier, the patented soapbox question. Tomorrow morning, you wake up, you find hundreds of billions of dollars in your bank account. You call the bank. It's not a mistake. They tell you go nuts. It's your money. So you go to social media to see if anybody else has had a similar experience, and you come to find you have hundreds of millions of followers. So essentially, overnight, you have unlimited power and influence over others. Um, After you pay off the house, fix the roof, put your kids' college fund in place, 2 years later, 5 years later, what do you, Dan Whitfield, what do you put that power and influence toward in this world?
So I guess yeah, first thing I'd pay off all my debts and student loans. I'd probably buy my mom a nice house. What would I use money and power for? I mean, I don't want to be cliche, but dude, ending world hunger and homelessness is so doable. But for some reason, we just don't do it. I mean, there are like, what is it, 5 times as many vacant houses in America than there are homeless people. We could literally house every homeless family if we wanted to. If a billionaire wanted to, they could spend a few $100 million and do that. I guess, yeah, just ending poverty, man. It's 2020 and we live in a society where we have the technology to make sure that not a single child goes to bed hungry at night. And I don't know why we don't do it, but we just don't. And that's probably what I would do with the money.
I love it,
It's
man.
important here in Arkansas because 25% of the kids here do go to bed with a hungry stomach and doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, I think I agree completely. I think it comes down to what I've seen is the mentality is still, well, what did they do to earn that? I earned this and I work this much. Well, what are
Mm-hmm.
they doing to get they get to live for free? Well, that's not like it's the same mentality with student loans. When people say, should
Yeah,
people have to pay
and
student loans? I
immigrate.
see people saying, well, I had to work, this many hours and on top of this, and where's my money? And it's like, well, did you like having to go through that? Was it not really stressful and kind of unnecessary
But
to
that's
in order to get an education? So why do you want other people to suffer because you suffered? Like why? What where's the mentality? Like I just don't understand the logic in that. And I think that's where that comes from is, well, I have to pay my mortgage and I have to work 40 hours a week. Why do these people who aren't didn't do anything to earn this, why are millionaires going to pay for their house? And I think that's a silly rabbit hole to go down, but I think that's where most people instinctually go because we're indoctrinated into a system where you go to school and then why do you go to school? So you can learn enough to get a job, right? And then if you don't have that at high school, what do? You go to more school so you can learn more how to get a job. So we're programmed to go to school so we can get a good job. So it's not surprising when people are like, well, why didn't they get with the program? I did what I was supposed to do, which is go through the system and end up with a job that pays for all my things. And so I think that that's what I've experienced, most people getting stuck in that loop of why they can't justify letting these poor people that live on the street live in houses that nobody's using. I mean, I'd pay $10 a month to chip in on their electricity or water or whatever so that we don't have homeless people. I mean, and I'm not rich by any means.
Well, heck, man, it's like number one, if we do our free college tuition, we don't have to pay for it because it's going to be a 1% speculation tax. But I would personally be willing to pay a little bit more in taxes to know that my neighbor there has a degree, my neighbor there has a degree, my neighbor there has a degree, and we all have good jobs because of it. I mean, people just think, it's not fair, but welcome to life. Sometimes it's really not fair. It's just the way it is, man.
Yeah, I'd love to see more educated. I think more so than, yeah, it might get them a better job, but just having a more educated community is only good. People that have more experience, more knowledge to make decisions based off of can only be a good thing, in my opinion. I don't think putting somebody through extra science and history and math classes is going to do anything negative. So I like the idea that somebody had thrown out where like an associate's degree or like community college, sorry, a community college would be free. You just go get information and do whatever you want with it. But if you still want to go to an Ivy League school or the SEC or whatever, yeah, you're going to have to get a scholarship or be from money, and you'll still have tiers of class, but you'll have a more educated lower class or middle class, and I think that can only have good consequences.
Yeah, and like with my 2-year tuition plan that I support, it would actually allow you to go up to your bachelor's degree to one of those universities for free as long as you have a 3.5 GPA. That
Yeah, I
way you
like
can
that too.
work harder, because if you have a 3.5 GPA and you're doing all of your work and everything, you're going to do all of your work, and you're going to show up to class. You're not going to be cutting, to make sure that it's at no cost to you.
And it's a much better way to get people out of a lower class than rolling the dice on a scholarship where you have no idea whether or not you're going to get it. You're just hoping somebody picks you. But if you're in community college and you're busting your butt and you get that GPA, you were in complete control of whether or not you got to move up to that next level. And I love that. That's a great idea. I
I'm
support that
not the
idea for sure.
smartest guy at all. I mean, I think I'm fairly intelligent, but I'm not the smartest guy. And I've got 2 jobs, a wife, a daughter, and somehow I managed a 3.5. And if I can do it, anybody can. You just have to show up and do the work.
Right. It's all about determination and making good choices, right? I think if you're not getting a 3.5, it's because you're making choices to do other things instead of your work, instead of studying or whatever. So if you go with your if you approach it with your best foot forward, you should be successful in anything that you do, so long as you have the right attitude.
Right?
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I thank you so much, man. I think this is great. I'm glad I got to meet you. Your name sounds a lot older than 33, so I was expecting somebody. That's why my first question was like, man, dude, you look like my age. What are you doing in politics? But I'm glad we got to meet, man. I would love to talk more offline. And yeah, I appreciate you fighting the good fight, man. I think it's very much needed.
Thanks, man. And yeah, I get phone calls all the time. So give me a call anytime. My phone number, it's on my website. I talk to people. I answer questions. I'm just trying to be a representative that listens to people. So give me a call sometime, man. And any of y'all listening, if you ever have any questions, shoot me a call, a text, an email, social media message. I'll always answer them. And if you have time on a Saturday night at 6 p.m., log on to my live stream and ask me any questions, and I can help clarify things. And make sure to check out replacetomcotton.com. That's my website.
And yeah, where can they find what's your social media handles, where they find the live stream, all those things?
If you go to replacetomcotton.com, at the very bottom of the first page, I believe it has a link to like my Facebook and my Twitter. I've been doing my live streams on Facebook Live just for the ease of it, but I have 20,000 followers on Twitter now. So I'm trying to find a way where I can start live streaming on, like, say, YouTube, and then share it to the multiple different platforms. I do all my live streaming from my phone, so I need 1,000 subscribers to do it from YouTube, and I'm up to like 500 now. So yeah, if you have YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel so we can get up to 1,000 do live streams on there.
Awesome. Yeah, get on his website and please follow this man so that we can replace Tom Cotton in November. Thank you, Dan, so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you, Ian. Have a good night. And I've got people saying I have a toupee now. Like they're like, nice hair.
Wow.
Yeah, man, I haven't got a haircut in like 4
Well,
months.
we can dispel that myth on here. We can give it a tug. You can show people it's not a rug.